Welcome back to another session of triaging issues. I am going to be looking at Heroics today. Heroics is a library for generating API clients, which a Ruby client generator for HTTP APIs. This is used by the platform API, which Heroku uses. So this is going to be an interesting one for me because I didn't write it. I do, I guess, begrudgingly help maintain it. I've made some commits to it because I needed some features. So I don't really know it that well. So this one might actually be interesting. Gonna turn on Do Not Disturb mode on the phone there. Okay. So this might actually kind of be somewhat representative of you just going and triaging random issues on a library you vaguely know about. So Heroics is largely created by Heroku employees, and these are some really old issues, and it does help to know a little bit. You can see here that these are a contributor or a member or an author. Both of these people at the time of the post were Heroku employees. Jimas still is. Jamu has moved on. I think is working at Stripe now. I'm not sure. Okay, so issue is Heroic should use keep alive connections, and this would probably give us some nice speed ups. Creating a connection to the client and then reusing it. Yeah, so I think, I don't actually have any experience implementing this, but from what I understand, opening and closing like a socket can be kind of expensive. And so you can just keep one around and reuse it. Connection created in link.run for each request. The change we need to make is to create a single connection at the top level client and pass it down to links via their parent resource instances. It should be mostly boring rewiring. Okay. Yeah, so my questions here are, do I understand the issue? Do I understand what they're talking about with keep alive connections? I'm making guesses. I think that's what they're talking about. I could also take a look at link.run to see what they're talking about, to validate some assumptions. So the other questions I have are, this is a really old issue. So if I'm driving, I want to, as a triager, I don't need to fix this. I don't necessarily need to go in and make the PR. I can, maybe. It's an option. But I want to help drive it to completion. I want to close issues at the end of the day. And first up would be, hey, is this still a priority? And then the follow-up issue would be if it's not a priority, or if we don't know it's a priority, how can we get that information? Is there some sort of a benchmark we could create? For instance, what Jemu is saying, this would probably give us some nice speed ups, probably, and speed ups are not super quantifiable. So how could we quantify them? How could we write a benchmark? We could do this independently of this library. We could just take the underlying. I believe they use XCon as the HTTP client, so they could. That's something we could do. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I do want to take a look at link.run and just see vaguely if I can get an idea of how it's being used. I want to jump over to I do want to jump over to my local copy of the code. It'll just be a little easier for me to maneuver around. Link.rb. Oh, hey, this is the file that I've modified. I added rate throttling along with Lola. Lola and I added rate throttling. Okay, so here's the connection, and here's where we're making the request. Here's the connection. We're creating a new one. Okay, so I think what I kind of want to do is just grab some code, grab some pseudocode, connection, request with cache. Okay. And give them some code, so then maybe we can start talking in terms of code. The other question I would have is if there's anywhere else in a code base that we could base this work off of. Like if they can point me at, hey, here's another place, here's another library where this work was done, so we can see how it's going to be done. Because clearly, that from an implementation standpoint, they think it's easy, but I kind of have no idea what they're talking about. So let's start writing a response. I'll post some code. Where's they explicitly mentioned run, def run. Okay, link schema, path, body. So make a request to the server, JSON con received. I'm just kind of reading the docs. Okay, yeah, this is where I copied the code from anyway. Link run. Okay, and the request is being made in request with cache. So format that as Ruby. Do you have any examples of using keep alive connections with XCon to follow that someone can use? Is there a way we could write an example script with keep alive connections to quantify the speed up potential? Um, if we had benchmarks that show this to be a significant speed up, then we can possibly prioritize this work. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. But I want to verify it. I don't know. Grammarly, ending a sentence in it. Yeah, so I mean, this was created 6 years ago. Honestly, it can probably be closed. It's like not a priority. But like I want to just this is how I would move forward if this was a relatively recent issue. So I'm not sure if either of them are going to even come back with this, but at least this is kind of where I'm thinking this is an attempt to move things forward. I don't necessarily need to know exactly what's going on or how to do all of the work myself. But I mean, just kind of following this format of like, here's what I'm observing, here's the questions that I have, and here's what I think. In general, anytime somebody's mentioning performance, asking for benchmarks, asking how can we quantify it, is a good idea. In this scenario, like there's just not a lot of details. And this is partially because it's an old issue and people, like it's also partially because everybody involved is an employee and they already have all of the context and already know what everybody else is talking about, but you don't. And so even if you wanted to code this up and even if, you were like, yeah, we're going to totally reuse the socket. It might not even be what they're talking about. They might have a very specific idea of this context that they both share that is not present on the issue. And so even just asking for clarification can be helpful. All right. Yeah, I think we're going to get a lot from Jemu. Okay. Oh, Dan. Maybe only one from Jemu so far. All right. Let's look at another Jemu issue. Examples produced by the CLI don't show correctly help options. This issue is related to resolving parameters in a janky way. The work in the client generator branch has necessary pieces to fix this. Park Funds Tech filed an issue about this. Its primary parameter. Okay. This is so sorry. I am just reading in my head, and it's linked to from another issue. Some things I'm thinking are they're talking about bin Heroku API, which I don't believe exists in this library. Does it? Oh, oh, that's fun. I don't know. I didn't know that this existed, which is even more fun. I mean, so my questions, I don't believe any, like my guess here is the fact that I didn't know this existed, would lead me to believe that nobody's using it, but you never know. I want to do a search and see where all it's referenced from. Maybe if it's in the README. Okay, it's referenced from itself. It's referenced from issues. It's in the wiki once. That it does not seem client-side caching. That does not seem related. Oh. Heroku includes a built-in CLI that, like the client, is generated from a JSON schema. Huh. What's that? Okay, we're going to bundle install this. I mean, so it's documented. I don't want to get rid of it. It's documented, but it's not working. Huh. Let's go back. I'm going to close derailed. Heroku API. Moneta. Where does Moneta come from? Okay, so how does this work? How does the link test work if Moneta isn't coming from anywhere? Okay, let's take a look. Link test. So it's not defined in this project. It might be defined in helper. Oh, right there. Gem spec. Oh, okay, right there. Dependency. It's a dependency. Heroku API. So in the process of even just looking at this, we're fixing a bug, maybe. So we're going to require that since it's missing. It might not be a valid bug, right? It might not be worthwhile. But we're still building context. We're still learning about the project. Wow, this is comprehensive. So from what I understand, this is all just like, if you give Heroics a JSON schema, like you can generate, all of this is generated. This is not hard coded. Might also want to update multi-JSON, getting that deprecation warning. Okay. Examples produced by the CLI don't show correctly help options. I need to understand what this is talking about. So here you can pass in an ID or a name, and let's run the exact example and see if we get the results. Okay. Okay, getting some more warnings. Can fix that. It's like already getting some contribution ideas. And we haven't even done that much. That's I guess that's good. Bundle update. Multi-JSON while we're at it. Okay, let's see if that got rid of that, at least one of those deprecation warnings. Good, that's one deprecation warning. This other one comes, you can actually see it coming from Heroics. Yeah, it's coming from Heroics. So that's that. Let's try to reproduce there. And so I guess I should mention I'm viewing this as a bug report. They're saying it's like a borderline bug report / feature. Basically they're saying they want this output here. They want it to be up here, and it's not up there, so therefore it's a bug. I mean, it's kind of like it's a sort of a bug, sort of a feature. And what I want to do in a bug report is, they've given me this example. It's not a super of a reproduction, and I want to be able to verify that I can reproduce it or not. Because if I can't, then hey, it might have already been fixed. It might have already, this is from 2014. A lot has happened since then. And as a matter of fact, it has. So I'm going to post back and say that we can close this. Also, I mean, I do have commit, so I'm going to go ahead and close the issue. But even if you didn't, you could, I'll just write it as though I didn't. We're going to delete this just for clarity. Heroku API. So I tried reproducing this behavior, and it looks like the bin Heroku API script produces the correct output. Note the ID present in this line. So let's also take a look at the linked issue, which probably we should have done before, but you know, it's who knows? We can do both. And this is labeled as version 3. Heroics version 3, version 0. Okay. Not sure what v3. That might be v3 of our internal API. Okay, of the Heroku API. So Heroku, the Heroku client used to be written in Ruby. It is now written in TypeScript, in Node, in TypeScript. And that's a whole other that's a whole other conversation to have. So that's why this is being linked from here. Okay. I'm not sure why this was closed. In my opinion, even though they tracked, hey, I filed this issue, this other issue, this is why it's linked, is because Jamu filed it, but then nothing happened. So to me, the issue is not closed, even though it's tracked somewhere else. Like it's still an issue with the API. So I don't necessarily think I would agree with closing it in that situation. But here, at some point in time in history, it must have been fixed. If I'm understanding the issue. So that I would just say that. I tried reproducing the behavior, and it looks like the script produces the correct output. I gave them my example, and because it's subtle, I noted the ID and then the exact line where I saw it, and then my belief. So it's kind of like an observation belief. I believe we can close this issue. You know, I could be wrong. They could come back and say, hey, no, but in this scenario, I'm pretty confident. And since I have commit, I'm just going to go ahead and close it. But how are we doing on time? Okay, that's 23 minutes. Well, I gotcha. Let's go ahead and make this commit to fix that script, because why not? Let's looking for contribution ideas. So we don't want to make it directly on master. What is the script called? Heroku API. All right, and then what do we want to say? Fix bin/Heroku API. I want to describe the behavior, and I think I have a link to my output from before, unless I cleared it. Yep, here we go. So it's kind of my observation. and then I want to state why I think that's the case. That is not a valid spell check fix. Thank you very much. Because the is hired. And then I want to say what this PR does. This PR fixes this issue by requiring the library. And yes, it's overly verbose and it's one line. You can clearly see them requiring the library, but it's good to have good habits. Just if you do this for all of your commits, then you'll never like I don't know. If you only try to play well when it matters, then like that's when you'll mess up. So practice like you play, I guess. Something, I don't know. I'm mixed analogies here. Okay, if this was actually a valid or important code path, the fact that it's failing and not the tests aren't failing is extremely worrying to me. Heroku, like basically anytime I'm making a change that's one line to an open source. Ooh, how did that happen? Oh, that's an open source library. I always want to look out ask myself, does this need a change log? Does this need tests? Do tests need to be updated? The fact that nothing broke from here is worrying. In link test, okay. So Heroku API, bin Heroku API. The only place that Heroku API is referenced is in bin Heroku API, which makes me think it's not executed. So like we could just raise an error in there and all of the tests would pass, and that's bad. The fact that this is, I believe, so infrequently used is like for this session, it's probably not worth the effort of going through and writing tests for it, figuring out how to test it, because usually that's the hardest part, is coming up with a strategy for how do we test it, how do we execute this code in a way that would have failed. Because for instance, the test helper loads this file, this Moneta library, so we'd have to make sure that we call it potentially, probably through a different process, like shelling out to it, so that the Moneta library is not already required. But in the scenario, it's like writing the test, making sure that it fails without this patch, applying the patch, making sure it passes, is what I would do. And I know I just got done telling you all the practice like you play and don't take shortcuts. But in this scenario, it's even yeah. I'll can maybe get around and do that at another time. Maybe the other alternatives would be to open up an issue and document that it's not tested. But again, it's just so infrequently used. So I do not want to amend. What? Let's make sure I didn't mess up my Git history. Git log. Oh, apparently I already committed this. Okay, good. I don't remember that. So we're going to push my branch. It's going to show up. Is it going to show up? There we go. Compare and pull request. And make the pull request. All right. So yeah, we got a pull request out of this. Two issues down, one pull request, 30 minutes. Hey, not bad. All right, thanks for sticking around. I'm probably gonna do another one of these back to back. I just don't want them to be super long. So Have a fantastic day, morning, afternoon. See you around.